Cheetah and Cheshire robbed the Justice League issue 1. This is Greg Rucka writing with NICOLA SCOTT on the art. That is a team familiar to us from way back at the start of the show because they did Wonder Woman together. Back
Wonder Woman year. It was a year 1, right?
Yes.
Was that the title? Yeah.
It was the year 1 issues, the even numbered issues, I think that was, if I recall correctly. But first things first. This book starts, right? Obviously, it's a Cheetah and Cheshire book. And like if anyone else was making this book, I'd be like, okay, I'd be curious, but like I wouldn't be excited based on the premise. But I started this book and like immediately the first few pages, I'm like, Rucka just knows how to draw you in to a story and just draw. Like, it starts off, it's just the blood dripping on the floor, then there's a boot, and it's like we're at like a morgue, and the person's like thanking the coroner and paying him off and saying, "Hey, I'll be back again," and you just see like a bit of the body. It looks like it's been like just bones are left of whoever was in this morgue, and it's like what is this? And it's just again, there's not a lot of dialogue. There's not a lot of speech bubbles, and the character's walking out in the rain with a hood up. We don't quite see who it is, but then they start to feel some hunger, and they start saying, "Damn you, not again!" And then 2-page spread, hoods off. It's Cheetah, lightning striking in the background, and she's cursing Uzga Targa for the curse of being a cheetah and all the rest of it. And like, so in the first 4 or 5 pages, it's like drawn me in with just atmosphere. Like, and that's obviously it's both the writing and the art, because the art's phenomenal, and the detail is really selling everything. But Rucka just knows how to like shut up and let the art like tell the story. And there's time for dialogue later, and it just makes you really like this story. She grabs this teenager, whoever it is, that's walking past, and like gets in his face and like scares him, and he just kind of runs off when she turns around and starts yelling at the sky. But it's like, okay, this is interesting, and then it immediately cuts to like a science lab where it turns out to be Cheshire, although it's not like super obvious at first that it's her. Like, she's got the green fingernails, which is a hint for sure. But she kind of looks like a party girl, if anything. But she's like doing a test like on a rat, and the rat explodes into just like a pool of blood at the end. And it turns out that was her goal, and she kind of flirts with the scientist who let her use the lab. Like, she's just obviously she's smooshed her way in here and be like, "Oh, let me use your lab, handsome. I'll,
Right. So you said like, yes, Rucka can pull you in with like by being quiet. Yeah. But then he can turn here and do the opposite. And through her dialogue here with the guy, with the tech, this is the most I think I've ever liked Cheshire, because it instantly her personality comes through with the flirtiness, and he's looking at her and she goes, "Oh, you might want to take care of that," right? And looks down, towards his waist region. And then as she walks by, he says, "Think of me when you do." And just this sly smile as she walks by. And it's kind of the opposite of the Cheetah opening.
Oh, yeah.
And they happen back to back. And you're just like, oh, goddamn. This is a team that understands how comics work.
Yeah, but both characters just feel so fleshed out already, and just in terms of their personalities and in terms of like where they're coming from and how different they are. So the next scene is Cheshire's like robbing like a warehouse or whatever. And she's, saying to the guards, "Hey, like, none of you need to die. You can just leave. Like, this doesn't need to happen." But obviously they fight her anyway. So she starts like stabbing them and killing them, and some action takes place. And it's just NICOLA SCOTT showing off, basically.
Yeah.
Fun stuff. But she gets up to the office, and Cheetah's already there holding the manager of this place by the neck. And there was a tea she was around as well. I think the first panel she was like in the rafters, like in shadow, looking down at them. So it kind of hinted earlier on that she's here. But yeah, so like basically, Cheetah just scratches this guy on the cheek, and that's all it is. But as they're walking away, you just like get the big splat sound effect in the background.
Yeah,
whatever
whatever
she made with the rat, whatever explosive poison she made, she's just put into this guy, and it's like darkly funny. It plays as a funny moment.
Yeah, because they're completely unbothered. They just walk by, and Cheetah kind of looks over her shoulder towards the window of the room that they just came out of in this warehouse, But yeah, just it's completely nonchalant.
Yep. So, and then it gets into the premise where they go for some food, and Cheetah notably has got her hoodie up the entire time because she can't really let herself be seen too much. And they're just catching up, and she's eating way more than Cheshire is because she's got this, appetite.
Hunger.
But yeah, Cheetah's like, yeah, or Cheshire's like, oh, so I assume there's a reason you came to see me, right? And, they're clearly friends, they reference old times and all that sort of stuff. But eventually she's like, yeah, I've got a job. And she's like, oh, really? I figured as much. She's like, well, go on, what job? And I love that the page where she leans in and tells her is almost completely without speech. There's like there's just like two speech bubbles, right? So it's just a silent panel of them staring at each other wide. The window behind them, the rain outside. Cheetah leans in first, gives her the little finger to wave her in, and she leans in to listen. And then we get a close-up, very wide panel that's wider than the rest of the panels because there's gutters for the rest of them, but this one doesn't have gutters. It goes all the way to the sides. And the whisper is, we're going to rob the watchtower. And then Cheshire just sort of sits back with a kind of surprised look in her face. And then the comedy beat at the end of the page is her saying, check, please. It's like, okay, no, you're crazy. Like that's like, that's psychotic. But then it flashes out, of course, when they're outside and they're talking about it. And she's like saying, yeah, like I've thought of everything. Yes, I know it's in space. I know the Justice League are up there. I know all these things. They referenced Wonder Woman at one point, which I really liked. It felt like Rucka went out of his way to like tip the hat to the Tom King run because they mentioned like the Sovereign and she is like, yeah, I helped, but the princess did her thing. So it's like, oh, Rucka's, like it's almost like, hey, the old Wonder Woman writers paying attention. Yeah, it's nice. So now, honestly, like, so I was digging this. I love the character dynamics, the convincing of the job, and it is just such a simple premise. We're going to go steal something from the Watchtower. The only thing, because it basically ends with her agreeing, and they're like, hey, we need to put a crew together, and that's what it ends on. But the one thing we've not mentioned yet is what they're stealing. And I don't really know what this is they're talking about. So Cheetah brings up the power box, I think she calls it.
Power bank. The
power bank. And they basically say it's a bank of all of the Justice League members' superpowers. And I don't really know what that means. Like, it's not like Superman can put his powers somewhere. Like he takes off a coat.
I'm wondering if it has to do with absolute power, right? And the Atom Project, where they were returning all the powers. And I wonder if it's this thing where it's almost like the way station for power, right? That when they all get mixed up, right? Like in We Are Yesterday, when Grodd ended up with Martian Manhunter's power, right? That power didn't go directly back to Martian Manhunter. The Atom came through, removed it from Grodd. It went back into Manhunter. I'm wondering if that's what the power bank's supposed to represent. It's like this thing where the powers get held, because that was one of our big problems with absolute power was we didn't really fully get how Waller was stealing the powers.
Yeah,
like and getting them into the Amazos. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the only problem with that is that Cheshire literally says, like Superman, all his powers are in a box. Why would Superman's powers be in the box? He has all his powers right now.
That's true.
So what exactly this box is, as much as they say it, I still don't quite believe it's what they think it is, or there's like a layer to this that I don't quite get yet. But the other thing they tease at the end is like, hey, if this news is out here, we're not going to be the only ones trying to steal this thing. So maybe there's potentially some rival teams coming in. So as far as the first issue goes, I thought this was excellently paced. I thought it like drew me into the story with the atmosphere at the start. I like both the characterization of each character. It's darkly funny in places, like the way like she leans in, like says what she wants to do, and like Cheshire's reaction to it. The fact that both characters start with a chiss sound is really throwing me here. I keep almost saying the wrong one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy. If we just call them Jade and Barbara Ann, how about that? Right? Or that's their government names.
Or BA as Cheshire calls her at one point.
Yeah.
Which, I'll be honest, you say BA, even though I never watched the A-Team, I still think of BA Baracus.
I did too, and like I love Barbara Ann, but I heard BA and I said, I pity the fool who don't know who BA is.
I mean, honestly, she said BA, and it actually took me a second to like, wait, BA?
Yeah.
Oh, Barbara Ann, okay. Like, I had to think about it for a split second. I'm like, what does she mean, BA?
I was getting, as they're walking and they're in their civilian clothes, right? And Barbara Ann's eating the hot dogs on the pier. Like every time we kind of see her, she's eating because of the hunger. But I was just getting Ocean's 11 vibes that every time you see Brad Pitt, he's eating, right? And it's a heist, and they're talking each other through it. And I was just like, God damn, Greg Rucka, you're giving me a book I didn't know that I wanted.
Yeah, I'm getting,
now here it is.
I'm getting the vibe. The reason why Cheshire wants this, the reason why Cheetah wants this, I just did it again. The reason why Cheetah wants this is because it ties into her hunger, and maybe she thinks she can like lift the curse, get rid of this, or do something with those powers. Like, I mean, I know making money's probably also part of it, but given the book literally starts with like how bad that hunger is, that she has to go to a morgue and pay off someone so she can eat some of the dead bodies because the hunger wants human flesh. And it reminds you throughout the issue with her eating at the restaurant, eating the hot dogs on the pier, even though they just had some dinner, or breakfast, because the sun's rising, I guess. But it reminds you throughout the whole issue. So I have to assume, because Rucka is a good writer, that is going to tie into like her motivations for doing this throughout. So yeah, it sets up an intriguing premise by the end, and I'm excited to see where it goes next. And NICOLA SCOTT's art throughout is pretty beautiful, frankly. So
yeah, they work really well together. It's just a well done team. There's a confidence in the storytelling here.
Yep.
Just the way that the characters interact, and there's the panel on the pier where they're talking about how much money it is, and it's just two of them right at the edge of the pier, and just the way that it flows with the dialogue, right? It's just kind of the perfect panel for that kind of dialogue. So
this is what this is always interesting when it happens, because whenever they announce a new book of some kind and it's like a mini and it's like some B character, C character, D character, this is what you hope for. And sometimes it's like a creative team you don't know, but you hope, maybe they're going to surprise us, and this is good. But this is one of these cases where these, they're not minor characters, but they're not characters who typically get their own books. This is a case where they've put a superstar team on a Cheetah and Cheshire book, and it feels like an A book as you're reading it. The storytelling quality, the characterization, the art quality, it feels like, hey, there's going to be a Cheetah and Cheshire book you can recommend to people in trade once it exists as a whole thing. In the same way that, Tom King gets handed sometimes like these obscure characters for his 12-issue books, and it's like, all of a sudden they've been elevated because they got one of these series. I mean, I think Cheetah's a pretty well-loved Wonder Woman character already. But I think both of these characters might even get a bit of a glow-up because they're just in a good book like this. And I'm excited to see how it plays out and what the reaction to it is. And I mean, I'm not surprised that it's great because it's Greg Rucka and NICOLA SCOTT, but at the same time, I'm still getting into it with a little bit of doubt of like, yeah, but it's just a Cheetah and Cheshire book. Is this really what I want them to be doing? And by the end of the issue, I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I want them to be doing. Give me issue 2, please.
Just like, I feel like Greg Rucka is one of the few people that could go to DC and be like, yo, I want to do a heist book. And like, all right, with Cheetah and Cheshire. Okay. NICOLA SCOTT on art. All right. Like, I feel like there's not very many creators that can kind of go in and pitch something like this. And I'm glad he's around still, because I do miss reading Greg Rucka regularly, right? Because we're so DC focused, it takes up the majority of my time. I'm not reading much of anything else. And in fact, this made me want to go get caught up with Lazarus, his creator owned, because that's been a while since I've checked in on that. So, but yeah, I mean, and it's Barbara Ann, I was going to be here regardless. So, yeah, a whole lot of fun. I can't wait to see where this goes.
Yeah. All right, Matt, what are you giving Cheetah and Cheshire Rob the Justice League?
9.
Say that, cut off.
Give us a 9.
Right, okay. Because it sounded like you said a different number there, and I wanted to double check. Yeah, 9 feels a bit right to me as well. It's just an excellent book. Like, I'm really happy to have this to look forward to now, as we go through. And obviously, yeah, it is like a weird couple of characters to put a whole book around, and that's why it's only a 6-issue mini, most lately. I don't know if they confirmed that or what, but I'm assuming it is.